Hi, I'm Lou Pierozzi, and today I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate how to make a lidded jar using this sort of flange, okay? Process is a little different than other jars that I've shown you, but this is a really great jar form to make, okay? So let me go ahead and put this over here. And I'm going to go ahead and start out with 5 pounds of clay for this, and that's for the main body. And it's going to be about that size, maybe a little bit bigger. And then for the lid, it's going to be about 2 1/4 pounds, okay? So I'm going to get my ball of clay, and we're going to just go ahead and start to center this up. All right. Going up. All right, clay's a little stiff for me today, but that's okay. Stiff clay is always really nice if you're making cylinders and vase shapes. And in this particular case, this is a lidded jar that's going to go up a little bit, okay? All right, so now that I've gotten this is the shape I'm probably going to start out with. I'm going to go ahead, make my opening, all right, and then just kind of pull this open. I'm just going to thin out the bottom. And the bottom you want about, depending on if you want to trim it or not, about like that size. All right. And then once I've kind of set this bottom up and I've really compressed, now I like to go ahead and bring up that wall. All right, so I'm just going to squeeze it. And then I'm going to compress this edge. All right, work this bottom a little more again. And I'm going to do it again. I'm going to compress this edge because we're going to need this nice and fat so that we can essentially split it. Push it out here with this outside hand, with the sponge in there, and begin to drive this up. Okay. And then I'm going to compress again. Now here's the key. The key is you want to split this in half by using your hand. And this is the time after the first real serious pull that you've done. So I'm going to get my wooden rib. I just want to get rid of all this nonsense down here. Okay. And then here's where all the action happens. I'm going to take my thumb. All right, so take a look at this. I'm going to simply drop this down and split it in half. All right, you see how I did that? All right, and then I can soften this out. All right, now at this point, I've kind of set that up. Now I'm going to raise it up and blow it out. So now I get to the bottom. Again, I want to remove all this heavy clay down here. All right, we're going to bring it up some more. And now we're just going to start to blow this out. All right. Take my wooden rib. Again, just clean up this bottom. We want to just clean all this up. And I'll go ahead and I'll blow it out again. Now I like to get my metal rib and just kind of really fine tune that shape. You see how I used that tool? Just took it in there, got that edge there. And then, you can work it over. All right, that's a pretty nice shape so far. We're just going to furtherly get this up. Okay, so at this point, this is really important. I want to take this edge. If you notice, it's folded in a little bit. I want to begin to push it out. So when I put the lid on there, if there should be any sagging, if this part is like this, you may lock top of your lid in there. So we don't want that. So I like to just back it off just a little bit. So I'm going to take this and then just a simple motion back. All right, and I'll try to keep, all right, just like that. All right. All right, that's pretty done. I'm going to just clean up the top. Now here's probably the more difficult part. Obviously, making this top flange area is a little bit tough, but another difficult part with making a lidded jar is getting the measurements right for the lid. So I'm going to go ahead and use something that's called calipers. Okay, that's what this is. And the one piece of advice I like to give is make sure this is always locked really well. Sometimes it's loose and this thing's flopping around. But if you lock it in place, then it won't move too much. So I take this, and another big tip with this is you want to, when you do this, when you measure it, always measure it in the same place. You know, I've seen people measure like this or like this. But really, I like lining myself up perfectly with my bat head and looking at from this vantage point when I make both the top, measure the inside of this and when I measure my lid. So I'm going to go ahead and take this and I'm going to take a look and try to get it right to that inside. Okay, that seems to be about right. And before I do that, I usually like to just turn it a little bit, just to make sure, and that's good, okay? So I'll put it over here. We want to make sure whatever we do, we don't screw that up, right? Because that's the right measurement. So now I can go ahead and, oh, here's one other little quick tip. I've got a little half a sponge. I go ahead, clean the bat head that way. All right, makes life a lot easier for you later. Go ahead and cut this. All right, we'll put this guy over here, and now we will start with the lid. So when we're making the lid, I like to think that that lidded jar is very much in the family of a circle, right? So for the top of it, we want to continue that circle. Now, sometimes when people make lids, they kind of make a bowl shape, but that's not a good shape for a lid if you want to get that nice curve. It's actually a platter, so it's a very shallow dish, okay? Sort of like the plates we made. So now I'm going to take my 2.5 pounds, which is probably way more than I need. Put that guy over there. All right. Way more than we need. All right, so let's see what we got. It's going to be way too much clay. So here's a little trick. You got too much clay there, you just take this and you just go like that. Okay, we just get rid of that. We don't need that, okay? All right, so this should be perfect now. So this is probably about 2 pounds. And I'm going to go ahead and make my opening. And I want to just see where we're at. Okay, so we still got way too much clay, but that's okay. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to pinch this up. Okay, again, way too much clay. But I like to get a nice platter shape on the inside. And so I'll take my metal rib and I'll simply go like this. I'll hold it. All right, and I still think I can skim this out just a little bit more. We still don't want it this thick. It's way too big. But I'm going to take this and we're going to want, again, way too big. Okay, now if it's this big, then we're going to get our needle tool. And I'm just going to go ahead and get that. All right. Now we should be in that family. A little bit off, but that's okay. We compress. That should be good. Let's see where we're at. Ah, okay. Right in that family. Right there. Okay. A little bit big. Now, if you make a lot of lids, I haven't made a lot of lids lately, so a little rusty. Okay. Okay, this dish is going to be pretty close. All right, great. So now I just stretch it out a little bit. I should be right there. There we go. Now, here's another little trick. So remember with lids, we can't have glaze either on the top of the jar and on the top of the lid, right? Because a little bit of glaze is going to lock those two things together. So we're going to need to put wax there, okay, if we're glazing, just to repel the glaze. So a little nice way of finishing it and having a transition point, or more specifically where you want to put the wax, is you create a little line. So what I'll do is I'll take my wooden rib and I'll simply mark where that's going to go, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and wax this part, and then I'm going to wax that inside part, okay? Once these dry and get leather hard, then I'll flip this over, I'll trim the bottom of this on the pot, and then I'll put a knob on it, okay? So that'll be for the next video. All right, thanks everybody.